For the section that we're going to be doing right now, we are going to be learning how to write linear equations given 2 points. If we look on the next page here, there are 5 steps to do this. And if you've seen my video on the previous section, steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the same as from the previous section. The only difference is we've added a new step. I'm calling it step 0 to the mix here. The only difference between this section and the last section is that you're given 2 points, and with those 2 points, you're going to calculate the slope of those 2 points that were given to you. So let's go ahead and look at a few examples here. This one says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the points 3, -2, and 5, 4. Well, in order to write this equation, we have to know 2 things. We have to know the slope, and we have to know the y-intercept. And at this point, we don't know either one of those. But since we're given those 2 points, we're able to calculate the slope. So let's go ahead and use those 2 points into the slope formula. Slope formula should be y2 minus y1 over top of x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And remember, this is x, this is y, this one also. But this is the first point, and this is going to be the second point. So let's go ahead and substitute numbers into the slope formula and find the slope. Y sub 2 is going to be 4. Y sub 1 is a -2. X sub 2 is a 5. And x sub 1 is a 3. So from this, we go ahead and say that when we minus a negative, as we are doing up here on the top, we change it to a plus. So 4 plus 2 is 6. And on the bottom, 5 minus 3 is going to be 2. And we know that we can reduce this. The bottom number 2 goes into the top number 6. It goes into it 3 times. So we have found the slope to be 3. And now from this step, we go ahead and use what we know about the slope and one of those ordered pairs. So y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug 3 in. And I'm going to give you, since we have 2 points, 3, -2, and 5, 4, I will show you both of these equations worked out with each point and show you that we still get the same y-intercept. So if we look here, we're going to use the first point right here, 3, -2. So x is going to be 3, y is -2. And we work this out. 3 times 3 will give us 9. And we're trying to get b by itself, so we subtract 9 from both sides. -2 minus 9 will give us -11. Those cancel, so b is equal to -11. Now, on the right side here, what are we going to substitute in for x and y? Let's look right here. 5, 4. 5, 4. 5 is the first number, so it's x. 4 is y. And so now we have to put that by itself. Trying to get b by itself, so 3 times 5 is 15. Subtract 15 from both sides. B is equal to 4 minus 15 will give you negative 11. And as we can see, it doesn't matter which point we choose, because both of these points up here, both of these points is going to be on the line. So therefore, the line is going to have the same y-intercept. So we're supposed to be writing an equation. So let's write the equation here. Y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. So plug in for the slope, which is 3. And what is b? Well, we found b here, and we found b here. B is negative 11. And since it's negative 11, we're going to put minus 11. And you have the equation. Y equals 3x minus 11. That equation will pass through 5, 4, and 3, negative 2. For future problems, we will only be doing one of the points. We will not be doing both of them, because we're going to get the same y-intercept, so we're only going to do one of them. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the points negative 1, and 2, 17. We need to find out what the slope and the y-intercept are. So, y sub 2 minus y sub 1. 17 minus negative 1. X sub 2 minus x sub 1. 2 minus negative 1. We know on the top 17 minus negative 1 becomes 17 plus 1, and on the bottom minus a negative also becomes a plus. So we're going to have 18 over 3. 17 plus 1 is 18, 2 plus 1 is 3. We know the bottom number 3 goes into the top number 18 6 times, so our slope is 6. We've calculated slope. Now we have to use a point to find the y-intercept. And which point are we going to use? I'm looking at negative 1, negative 1. 1 is an easy number to work with. We do have negative signs there, so we got to be careful when we work with those. And we have 2, 17. Both of those are positive, but 17 is kind of a larger number. Whichever one you feel more comfortable working with. If you want to go ahead and work that out on your own, if you feel comfortable doing that, go ahead and do that. I think for this example, I'm going to go ahead and choose 17, 2, or I'm sorry, 2, 17. When we plug it in for y equals mx plus b, we're going to say 17 is equal to mx plus b. We plugged 6 in for the slope and 2 in for the x value, and when we multiply 6 times 2, we get 12. And we have to subtract 12 from both sides. Those cancel. We're left with b is equal to 5, and that's a positive 5. And from this point, we're supposed to be writing an equation. Write an equation. So we're going to say y is equal to m x plus b. And since b is a positive 5, we're going to put plus 5. And you have the equation. Y is equal to 6x plus 5. That equation passes through the point negative 1, 1. Or I'm sorry, it passes through the point negative 1, negative 1. And it passes through the point 217. Look at the following example here. See if maybe you can try this one on your own. First off, you have to find the slope, and then you'll plug that slope that you found and a point into slope-intercept form to solve for b, and then you'll write the equation. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and work this one out. Alright, so we're trying to find m and b. So in order to find m is equal to y2 minus y1, x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And on the bottom here, we have minus and negative, so that becomes a plus. So now we're going to say 8 minus 5 is 3, and negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3. We know a positive divided by negative is a negative, and we know 3 over 3 is 1. So our slope is negative 1. Let's pick a point to plug in for our to solve for b, so we're going to use negative 3, 5. So we have 5 is going to be y, m is negative 1, and b is negative 3. Or that wasn't b, that would be x is negative 3. And we have to solve for b. And so from here, negative 1 times negative 3 is going to be a positive 3. And we're trying to get b by itself, so we subtract 3 from both sides. And we're left with b is equal to 5 minus 3 is 2. And we have 2 here for the y-intercept. Now we're supposed to write the equation, slope-intercept form. Y is equal to, slope is going to be negative 1. So y is equal to mx. We don't need to have the 1 there in the equation. Y is equal to mx plus b, and b in this case is a positive 2. That's the reason why we have y equals negative x plus 2. That's the equation that passes through negative 3, 5, and negative 6, 8. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Pause the video, and then I will work through the solution for you. Let's look for the slope here. So we know m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 7 minus 7 is 0, and 5 minus a negative 1 is going to be a 5 plus 1, which is 6. And we know 0 over 6, that's a slope of 0. A line that has a slope of 0, by this point, you should know that if it has a slope of 0, it's going to be a horizontal line. It's going to cross the x-axis, or that crosses the y-axis. It's a horizontal line that crosses the y-axis at whatever the y-intercept is. So let's go ahead and determine what that y-intercept is. Use this point, 5, 7. So we say y is equal to m x plus b. This is 7 is equal to 0 plus b, and so b is equal to 7. And to write the equation for that, y is equal to mx plus b, and that's a positive 7. B is a positive 7. We know that 0 times x is going to be 0, and so 0 plus 7 must be equal to 7. And right here is our equation. It's the equation of the line that passes through -1, 7 and 5, 7. Okay, we have a quadrilateral here that kind of looks like a rectangle. Well, we have to kind of figure out if it is a rectangle. In order to do so, you have to know that that segment AB is going to be parallel to segment CD, and segment AD should be parallel to segment BC. There's a few other things in order to make that a rectangle. We're probably going to touch on that on the next slide. But let's determine whether they're parallel. Those lines are parallel. So we're going to start with segment AB. We're going to write the equation for segment AB. Okay, the ordered pair. The ordered pair for A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 5, 3. The ordered pair for B is going to be 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. 7, -3. The ordered pair for D is 1, 2, 3, 4. -4, 0. And the ordered pair for C, 1, 2. -2, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. All right, for AB, we need to find the slope and what the y-intercept is going to be. So in order to find slope, let's say we're going to say 3 is y2, -3 is y1. So 5 must be x2, and 7 is x1. Work this out. 3 minus -3 is going to give us 3 plus 3, so that's 6. And 5 minus 7 is -2. We know positive divided by negative is going to be a negative, and the bottom number 2 goes into 6 3 times. So we have the slope for segment AB. If we wanted to determine whether it was parallel to CD, we don't even need the y-intercept. We just need to compare their slopes. But I'm going to go ahead and work out the y-intercept for you. For the y-intercept, which point are we going to use? Let's use that point, 5, 3. So y is equal to m x plus b. So we get -15 plus b is equal to 3. And to get b by itself, we're going to add 15 to both sides. So b is equal to 18. And we can write that equation. Y is equal to negative 3x, and this y-intercept is a positive 18. Negative 3x plus 18. Looking at this one here, since this is on a graph, we can calculate slope. The slope is the change in y, and the change in y here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it went down, so it's a negative, over the change in x, and the change in x is 1, 2, and that went to the right. So our slope here is going to be a negative 3. And we can see that they do have the same slope. So those two segments are going to be parallel because they have the same slope. How about you write the equations? You're going to go ahead and pause the video. I want you to pause the video here. Let me erase some things here to clear this up for you. I want you to write the equations for the lines that pass through the points AD and also through the points BC. I want you to write those two equations. Go ahead and pause the video and work on this, and then I will come back here in one moment and work these out for you so you can check to make sure you're right. All right, if we're going to go with AD, we're going to go ahead and let that be the second point. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over top of x sub 2 minus x sub 1. That means that D was the first point. Now work this out. 3 minus 0 is going to be 3. And 5 minus negative 4 is the same as 5 plus 4, so that's 9. So since we have a fraction here, we should always try and reduce it. We know that since we have 3 over 9, we know we can reduce each one of them. We know that 3 goes into both of them. So on the top, 3 goes into 3 once, and on the bottom, 3 goes into 9 3 times. So right now, we have a slope of 1/3. And if we look, let's find y-intercept here. So let's find the y-intercept. We're going to use the point. We can use the point. Let's use this point here. Negative 4, 0. Y is going to be 0, so we plug 0 in there. The slope of 1/3 and x. X is going to be negative 4 in this case. Y equals mx plus b. So to work this out, we know a negative, or this is a positive times a negative, is going to leave us with a negative. And we know that in order to make 4 into a fraction, all we have to do is put it over top of a 1. And so from this point, we multiply the top numbers. 1 times 4 gives us 4, and multiply the bottom numbers. 3 times 1 will give us a 3. And from here, we just need to solve for b. We're going to add 4/3 to both sides. And b is equal to 4/3. And from this part, we are able to write our equation. We know b is equal to 4/3. So therefore, we can write our equation. Let me get a different color here. Y is equal to 1/3 x plus 4/3. So that is the equation for AD. That's the equation for AD. And let's find the equation for BC. I just noticed right here the point C, we did go -2, but then we also went -6. So from here, we're going to go ahead and get rid of some of this stuff. We're going to write the equation for BC. So m is going to be equal to something, and b is going to be equal to something. We need to find the slope and the y-intercept. So in order to find the slope, let's go ahead and calculate that using the formula. Let's let this be the y2 minus y1. And we're going to have x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Let's work this out. Since we have minus and negative, we know that's addition. So -6 plus 3 is going to be -3, and -2 minus 7 is going to be a -9. Well, since they're both negative, we know a negative divided by negative is going to be a positive. So all we have to do now is reduce 3 over 9. And when we reduce 3 over 9, 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 9 3 times. So we have calculated the slope to be 1/3. Now we need to find the y-intercept. If we look on the graph, we know the y-intercept is right there. We can't be real exact from our visual. So let's get real exact, and let's use, let's go ahead with this point here and use that for finding the y-intercept. So -3 is going to be y. That's going to be equal to the slope times the x, and that's, we have to find b. So in order to do that, 7 has to be a fraction. So multiply the top numbers. 1 times 7 is 7. And multiply the bottom numbers. 3 times 1 is 3. we have to get b by itself, so we're going to subtract 7/3 from both sides. So b is going to be equal to -3 minus 7/3. Well, in order to do this, we have to have common denominators. So -3 over 1, and our other number is going to be a -7 over 3. So the common denominator between the denominator is going to be the numbers on the bottom. The common denominator between the 1 on the bottom and the 3 on the bottom is going to be a 3. And this fraction on the right will not change because it keeps its same denominator. But the one on the left is going to change a little bit. We know a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and we know the common denominator is going to be 3. So we have to multiply that 1 on the bottom by 3 to get the 3 as a denominator. So we have to multiply the 3 on top by 3 to get 9. So now we have a new problem. We have -9/3. Let me erase that here. So our new problem is going to say -9/3 minus 7/3. Well, we know -9 minus 7 is going to give us a -16, and the denominator will stay the same as a 3. And so b must be -16/3, which, if we think about it as a mixed number, -16/3 is -5 1/3. And if we look here on the graph, the y-intercept that we've calculated is down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 5 1/3. -5 1/3 for the y-intercept. So our equation that we're going to be writing for BC, y is equal to 1/3 is your slope, and -16/3 is your y-intercept. Y equals 1/3 x minus 16/3. If we look back at our notes, let me go to the next page here. If we look back at our notes, we calculated, let me get another color. We calculated the slope here as a positive 1/3, and the slope here as a positive 1/3. A few examples back, we calculated this slope to be -3, and this slope was also -3. Well, the second part of our rectangle, the second part of our definition should indicate that we have right angles. Well, we'll have right angles if BC is perpendicular to AB. We'll have one right angle here between, we'll have one right angle between those two sides. So how do we know that those two segments, or the lines passing through those points, are going to be perpendicular? Well, perpendicular lines are going to have negative reciprocal slopes. So let's look at this slope. This slope is a -3/1, and let's look at this slope as a 1/3. Are they negative reciprocals? Well, the top one's a negative, that one's a positive. So they're opposite of each other. So far, we've met that requirement. And are they reciprocals? Well, 3 over 1, if you find the reciprocal of that, is going to be 1/3. So therefore, we have perpendicular lines that make a right angle there. And if we notice, this slope and this slope are also negative reciprocals. So right angle in there, and 1/3, -3 is also negative reciprocals of each other. So we have a right angle there. And then for the last set, -3 and 1/3, those are going to be opposite reciprocals or negative reciprocals of each other. And we'll have a right angle there. So we've determined that this shape has opposite sides that are parallel, and we've determined that the angles formed there are going to be right angles. So it's one way to identify a rectangle there. That'll be all that we have for this video. If you have any questions, you can stop by and see me, or try and answer those for you. Thanks for your attention.